Welcome to Crossbody of Work. My name is Evan.
I'm Javier.
And we love our technical difficulties. We really do.
Dude, it's a roller coaster ride.
It truly is. Every week. This week it was like, it's been like 40 minutes we've been trying to start this, so we're going to get it all done in one big take. That's the plan.
Yeah. You know, we are just vibing, but the people didn't come here for just the vibes. They came here for some wrestling. Evan, tell the people who we're covering this week.
AJ Lee. The original anti-diva?
I wouldn't say the original anti-diva, but definitely the one that will probably be most well-known for it in the modern era.
I would say the original anti-diva in terms of the fact that the diva term didn't exist. Like,
okay, because I was going to say, Lita literally existed.
Yeah, exactly. Lita is the predecessor. But in the diva era, it was definitely AJ Lee who was the first anti-diva. And then that crown was kind of taken by another woman who we'll see in this podcast in the last two matches. But we'll get to that when we get to that. Because for now, we're talking just about AJ Lee, whose career I really missed, because this was in some of my lapsed fandom. What about you?
I basically missed her entire career. I stopped watching officially around like somewhere through 2012-ish. And then, that was really her rise. And then, obviously her as a Divas competitor really started around 2013. And that's when she went on her run through 2014. I came back at the end of 2014. I did see her lose the title to Nikki Bella, which we don't cover on this podcast, which is why I throw it out there.
Yeah.
And then obviously I remember the exact tail end of her run, which is kind of marred by injuries because she missed a whole lot of a while. And
she did miss a while.
Promptly, unceremoniously retired after the fact. So
yeah, we'll get to all of that on the pod, but before that, we're going to go through some housekeeping things. First off, make sure you're checking out Full Press Wrestling for all your wrestling coverage, fullpresswrestling.com. If you want to write for us, there's a link on the site as well. Follow the podcast on Twitter at Crossbody of Work. We usually just tweet random memes and retweet all the other things from the rest of the FPC boys and the podcast family. So check it out. Check us out there.
Yeah, occasionally I'll throw in a smart remark in replies or something.
That's true. Something sassy.
Yeah,
Javier is the sassy Southern Belle, if you didn't know.
I'm not Southern and I'm not a Belle, but I will take it.
These are the vibes people came for. Now, AJ Lee from New Jersey started wrestling in 2007 at the age of 20 and was trained by Jay Lethal. I feel like we've had a couple people in this show who have come through and been trained by Jay Lethal. So he's doing some extra work on top of his work for ROH.
Yeah, which is weird because Jay Lethal's always been pretty young. Like I remember Jay Lethal's top run as the top guy of ROH a couple years back. I was just like, oh, how old is this guy? He's only like fucking 30 at the time. So it's like
he's been around the business for a long time.
He's probably in his mid to late 30s right now. So it's not even like he's super old either. It's kind of crazy to think of Jay Lethal's impact compared to the amount of compared to his age, I should say. He's been around for forever, it feels like.
Let's talk about the fact that AJ Lee was signed to FCW and then joined the third season of NXT. So she was on Game Show NXT when it was paired with a pro. Her choice of pro, or her pairing of pro, is very strange.
So strange.
She's with Primo,
Yeah.
Of the Shining Stars.
Of Carlito's brother.
Of Los Matadores.
Yeah, and no El Torito. Like, what is the point of this happening with no El Torito?
That's true. El Torito was the best part of that gimmick by a country mile.
Yeah, 100%. But, the NXT game show, I will say, I didn't mind the first season. I didn't hate it with Wade Barrett and all those guys. And I didn't mind the later season with, Johnny Curtis, a.k.a. Fandango, and Derek Bateman, a.k.a. EC3, and like the cool little like love storyline they had going on with, I forget who it was, Maxine, and Maxine, who's Katrina in Lucha Underground, and the whole stuff there. There was a wedding angle. It was actually like fun drama. But yeah, no, this season 2, I believe this was the women's season. Season 3, it was awful. It was so bad.
The top 3 of this season are excellent though, because it's AJ Lee, Kaitlyn, and Naomi. That's an excellent top 3.
Yeah, it's either them. It's Oksana was also in that. God, she was so bad. She was really bad during her run, like when she was actually on the main roster and stuff. She was so much worse in this NXT show. It's Oh my god, it's just terrible.
And we're actually looking at a match from NXT, and it is Naomi versus AJ Lee. So Naomi and her pro Kelly versus AJ Lee with the aforementioned Primo. A match I had never heard of, never looked at, never saw, because obviously I wasn't watching during Game Show NXT. But this is one that came up on a couple of different Reddit threads of underrated AJ Lee matches. And what do you think about that assessment of this match?
I mean, this seems like a pretty basic match. I would kind of throw it more in the Naomi camp than I would the AJ Lee camp. But at the same time, I'm thinking about it. How many great AJ Lee matches are there? Like, there's only a handful because she didn't have any dancing partners.
We're going to talk about it eventually. She didn't have that many dancing partners. She also didn't have that much time and that much opportunity. We're going to get to that for sure.
I'll tell you, this was my favorite podcast to prep for.
Yes, it was pretty quick to go through.
But no, this match was fine. I mean, it's kind of it's basically the match you get with that NXT show when you get two people who are actually kind of competent at wrestling. Like Daniel Bryan had a couple of these during the first season of NXT where, the matches were only like 4 or 5 minutes, maybe a little more than that if you were really, really good. But they were good matches. I mean, Daniel Bryan had a match with Chris Jericho that was really fun, and if it's a good pairing out there, I mean, you can make a 5-minute match work, and these two did. I mean, it's clear that Naomi didn't have that much experience. She was definitely green around the edges, and it was clear that AJ, I mean, she was good. She was obviously the more experienced of the two. She's probably one of the already more experienced wrestlers in the entire women's division, but she just wasn't exactly fully crisped and honed as a worker yet.
She would get better with time.
Yeah, there were still a little mistake, a couple mistakes here and there, but that's kind of what NXT was for. It was really to establish that these are new people coming onto the scene. And yeah, they may not be the best of the best, but they're rookies. They're not supposed to be.
It's wild that such a glorious thing like NXT now came out of this shit show.
Let's bring back the game show. Let's do that.
Let's not bring back the game show.
Let's bring it back.
Unless it's hosted by R-Truth. Then I'm cool.
I mean, who would... All right, let's say they do it the way they do it. How many pros were there? There were 6, I believe?
I think so.
Who would you want to see as the pros?
As the pros? Oh, my goodness.
Because you've got to think, it has to be mid-card people who aren't used as frequently, but are also... I mean, I would say it's still pretty fine. Like, for my number one pick, Shinsuke Nakamura.
Mine was going to be
want
Cesaro.
Shinsuke Nakamura. Well, I mean, I'm also kind of thinking the entertainment factor. Can you imagine Shinsuke?
Use the Artist Collective more is, I think, what we're going at.
Yeah, give me Sami Zayn as well. Give me people. I mean, I feel like Xavier Woods is going to be thrown in there because he's a personality, but...
Give me Ciampa. He's not doing anything now after Fight Pit.
Hey, he's going to be a tag team with Timothy Thatcher.
You think so?
That I know so. They literally teased it last night. He goes, hey, there's an open spot in the Dusty Classic. Then Thatcher just smiled, shook his head, and walked away.
So let's talk about the match and the fact that it is called by heel era Michael Cole, aka the worst fucking thing that has ever existed.
No, because the worst fucking thing that's ever existed is right next to him, Josh Matthews.
No, that's true. Yeah, this is bad commentary. Watch this match on mute, and you will have a much better time.
It's not the worst. All right, Michael Cole isn't the worst in this specific match. It's not the worst.
A heel.
It's all right. You're not fully understanding what I'm saying. It's not the worst.
Because Josh Matthews is there?
Josh Matthews fucking exists. And honestly, Mike, the reason why I was okay with this was because Michael Cole, while annoying as fuck, was kind of drowning him out. So I didn't have to hear as much Josh Matthews. And I'm kind of just used to Cole's head. I just mute it internally anyways.
That's true. So early on in the match, some good spots that I liked. There was a really quick spot where the head scissors by AJ, and then Naomi follows it up with what is now known as the rear view, but I guess wasn't a finisher at this point.
Yeah, I mean, it makes a lot of sense. I didn't know any of their finishers at this time. So, I honestly, I'm thinking back to it. I didn't know what Naomi's finisher was before she was the glow person.
Fair.
I really didn't.
She never really got any times to hit it.
She never really won. And she was rarely ever used, but even when she rarely ever won.
Before we go more into the match, is Naomi the most underappreciated women's wrestler of the last decade?
She's
up there.
All right, are we talking underappreciation as in like it wasn't used as much, or underappreciation as far as like people who actually, appreciate this person? Because I think it's Natalia.
I think
Natalia is
you're right.
excellent.
Natty
Natalia is one
excellent.
of the, in my opinion, one of the 3-4 best women's wrestlers of all time. And she is just there.
People just write her off constantly. I think Naomi is underappreciated in the fact of like she always showed great spots. Like she always had the ability to hit her spots. She's even really good in this match where you're right. She's green, so she's a rookie, but they took so long to pull the trigger on giving her anything.
She was a victim of circumstance as far as like the whole Divas thing, but she was also been in the last like 4 or 5 years. She's kind of been a victim of we have other people that are better kind of deal. I mean, I know there's a lot, there's obviously the Charlotte, the Beckys, the Sashas. They've been pushed to the forefront, but I mean, you kind of think about it. Where is she gonna fall in with the main event picture, especially like coming up? I mean, you have Rhea Ripley soon to be coming up probably. You've got a lot of women in NXT that are going to eventually transition over to the main roster. Naomi's just going to fall even deeper into the pecking order. And yeah, she's insanely talented, but would you rather start your division with Naomi or Rhea Ripley? Or like Naomi or Bayley or
for everything Naomi can do. Naomi was one of the stars of, was it the last Rumble or was it the Rumble before where Naomi had like...
Yeah, she's their Kofi. She does the Kofi spot.
But still, like, you can give her more. I don't know. I think she's being underused. But
I think the women in general are being underused.
Agreed.
But that's a WWE issue.
That's a Vince issue. What's the spot you liked?
Yeah, I mean, I love that head scissors spot that you were talking about because it looked really, really good. There was a couple of tilt-a-whirl spots in this match that actually looked really good. I don't know why my good sounded that way. Good. But yeah, it's obvious. It was really obvious within the first like minute and a half that AJ was just going to have to be the person that carries this match, because you could tell in a couple of the way that the slams were happening and in the way they were hitting the ropes. Naomi is still very green, but there is obviously talent there. I mean, she hits a scoop slam at one point and there's a high jumping like leg drop where she gets pretty good air on it. I thought that was really good. There's a bow and arrow submission that she clearly didn't know like placement and stuff in the ring. She was way too close to the ropes and
she
her
had
shoulders
her
were
shoulders
down.
Yeah,
and it's a thing that happens with when you're just green.
Learning,
I mean, she's
right?
new to the business. She was a dancer. She has no wrestling background pre-WWE. There was a fun spinning counter. Like she does a tilt-a-whirl counter into a DDT, like a tornado DDT, which was really cool. And I mean, and almost from there, it kind of just goes straight into the finish.
Yeah, because AJ manages to lock on the octopus. Because at this point, it's just the octopus stretch. She just hasn't called it the Black Widow. Is that what she calls it?
Yeah.
Yeah. And Cole has one of the worst calls ever.
Octopus!
Just yells octopus like 14 times.
Super loud.
You would think that it was him calling Daniel Bryan at WrestleMania 30.
The Miracle Kid!
That actually worked. That was right for the moment. This is a random 5-minute match on NXT.
Well, it was also after he had won.
Exactly. Stop just screaming octopus.
He was screaming it out while the move was applied before Naomi could even tap out.
So AJ gets the win. You're right. Like a good match for rookies on NXT, and I think you can see sparks of greatness in both of them. But definitely,
and I could see why people wanted to pick out this match. It was two really talented women's wrestlers in the very early stages of their development. I mean,
it's interesting.
Yeah, it's a cool little gem for AJ because I mean, before 2012-ish, which we will get to right now, you don't really see her much. There's not much AJ Lee out there.
And AJ Lee would actually be eliminated on this show. Later in this episode, AJ Lee was eliminated and came 3rd overall in that season behind Kaitlyn and Naomi.
Boo.
Boo. Big boo. Let's move on to the second match. And it's not really a match that AJ participates in, but it's one of the most, I'd say it is the most famous angle that AJ is a part of. These are the people she is most associated with.
This storyline did not age well.
No, it's very weird. Let's talk about it. So the match itself is AJ Lee and now husband CM Punk versus Kane and Daniel Bryan on Raw, June 11th, 2012.
Pre-Team Hell No, everybody.
This is actually what leads into Team Hell No. So AJ had been in a romantic angle with Daniel Bryan when he was a shithead heel. And the fact that he gave her a good luck kiss is partly to blame for what preceded Bryan losing in 18 seconds at WrestleMania 28. Sadness.
Not partly, it completely.
I mean, you can blame Bryan or you can blame AJ, but they both were there, and Bryan lost in 18 seconds. AJ was then given a mentally unstable aspect to her character, which truly did not age well.
Especially considering her.
Yeah. It's not
the
great.
Human being.
Yep. She snapped after losing Bryan, turned her affection on to CM Punk and Kane, who were both kind of feuding with Bryan, and was firmly in the middle of the Punk-Bryan feud. Like I said, this is also the pre-Team Hell No. It was actually this teaming together that would lead to Bryan and Kane becoming a full-time tag team and becoming tag team champions later.
And this match is on the eve of a triple threat match that they're going to have at Over the Limit, I believe.
Yes.
It's
right.
a triple threat match, Punk, Kane, and Bryan, which is basically what leads to Team Hell No.
Yep. And it's very weird. AJ's gimmick is that you can never predict what she's going to do. She snapped on, I think Kaitlyn was her friend, and she snapped on her and beat her up, and it's not very well portrayed, but when does WWE ever use a light touch?
She has kissed CM Punk, she has kissed Daniel Bryan,
and we're gonna get to Kane.
Let's just put it like this, everybody. CM Punk comes out, and my only note is, you're WWE champion.
We haven't seen WWE champion Punk on this podcast before, and I would just like to say, he fucking rules.
This guy is he is about 6 months into his title reign at this point.
Yeah, a little longer.
Yeah, a little longer than that. It is fucking insane to me what they did to him during the first half of his run.
Yep.
Up through until SummerSlam era, it is just disgrace. I mean, he obviously had the really, really great match against Daniel Bryan. He had the fun kind of ish program with Chris Jericho leading into WrestleMania. But aside from that, it was just dud. And
then they also, because next summer is Summer of Punk, and they drop the ball there too, because they bring in friggin' Kevin Nash and...
that was pre this.
I thought that was in 20...
That was 11.
Oh, that's 11. I'm mixing up my 11 and my 13.
This is post. No, 2013 is heel Punk, Paul Heyman.
Right, heel Punk. Yeah, so everyone talks about the great title reigns. You need to have quality opponents, which is why I will always defend people who say that Kofi Kingston's WWE Championship run wasn't great.
It was awesome. What are you talking about?
Some people fight and say oh, he wasn't great. I'm like, he did excellent. No. And also, he was doing well against guys like Ziggler, who's been around for 1,000 years.
Okay, I mean, he had a program with Samoa Joe, but...
Man, I don't know.
I thought it was great. He was put over strong over a lot of great opponents. I mean, Randy Orton, Samoa Joe. It ended terribly, but I thought, he was made to look like the biggest, baddest guy in the roster, which is what you want out of your heel. Out of your champion.
I just got to stop listening to people on Twitter. Anywho,
yes,
let's talk about the match itself. Obviously, Punk and Bryan start. AJ Lee is terrified and is sitting on the apron because she doesn't want to be in. No,
Punk and
match.
Kane start.
Punk and Kane start, and then Bryan comes in pretty early.
Yeah, they just start doing the double team thing. Bryan comes in. He was an annoying heel. It was amazing. He just starts throwing kicks. He's yelling yes. This was pre-yes champion popular. He kind of just did it to annoy people.
Yeah.
Which is funny because he does it to annoy people, but the people are just like, yeah, we like this guy now.
Wrestling fans are weird.
It's great. It's fun to see Daniel Bryan try to heel it up during the early stages of the Yes movement because people are just like, we want to root for you, dude.
Yeah.
He's being worked on. CM Punk is being worked on badly by Bryan and Kane, and he reaches over for a tag at one point, and he has a clean tag to AJ, but then he realizes that his partner is AJ Lee, and he's just like, well, I guess I'll just continue getting my ass kicked.
The look on Punk's face when he turns and sees that he remembers that AJ is his tag partner, he kind of and just kind of lowers his head a little bit, all right, I got to keep fighting Kane.
Yeah,
cool.
And Kane just throws him into the corner, and AJ accidentally tags herself in.
And Kane wants to fight AJ immediately when this happens. He is ready to throw hands with this small lady.
Yeah, he is just staring down at her with a death stare. She's just looking up to him kind of lovingly, and then she starts smiling at Kane. She starts skipping in circles around him.
He starts getting Tori flashbacks from the Attitude Era.
And then eventually She just stops behind him. He turns around like, what the fuck? And then she just jumps up into his arms, wraps her legs around his waist, and just plants one on him.
Hello, Mr. Mayor.
And it's like a solid 15, 20-second kiss.
You remember those ninth graders who had never dated anyone before, and they're like going at it in the hallway between class? It's those kids.
Oh, you mean
it's Kane and AJ Lee.
Those my friends in the hallway right near my locker. But anyways,
I don't understand what it is about ninth graders. If anyone is going into high school soon, if anyone's a young listener, one, sorry, we make a lot of references you don't understand. But also, if you're in the ninth grade, I have one piece of advice. Move to the side of the hallways. Get the fuck out of the way.
Yeah, go up against your locker, but not my locker. Your locker, the locker that is yours with all your stuff in it. Yeah, if you just close it or leave it open, whatever you want, you can go in there. But like
ninth graders move in packs like gazelles. I don't understand.
Yeah, and just fuck off.
Just move. It's okay. You'll have your chance to shine soon. Just stay out of the way, and you won't get run over by any 12th graders.
Yeah, you're a freshman. We don't care about you.
That's me. We care about you, but we just don't want to have to run you over constantly. Anyway,
exactly.
So Kane is befuddled at his newfound boo. Tags in Bryan.
Yeah, forces a tag on Bryan.
Yeah, and AJ tags in Punk. And pretty quickly we get to the end.
Kane leaves. Kane tags Bryan and
Kane
dips.
Walks up the ramp. Kane's like, fuck this. I need to go think about what I've done. I also need to change my pants.
And it's just weird. Oh, wow. So AJ tags Punk in. He hits a backup on Bryan to stop his momentum. He falls down. And then Punk hits a flying elbow, the Macho Man elbow that looks terrible that he loved doing. And that's what he wins the match with.
That's the end. It's not an important match in terms of like AJ putting on a wrestling clinic. We're going to get to some for better wrestling matches soon. But This is, I think, the most important feud of AJ's career.
Yeah, it's what everyone remembers her for. It's this. It's the Daniel Bryan, CM Punk, Kane, John Cena thrown into the mix at some points there.
She was going to marry Daniel Bryan on Raw 1000, but dumped him to be Raw GM.
Yeah, she becomes Raw GM. Which I've looked back on. She was really good in the role.
That doesn't surprise me. She seems like a good actress.
Yeah, she was really good in that spot. And honestly, I mean, you think about the career that she's had and, you know, her allegiances. It's been guys like Daniel Bryan. She's been in programs with CM Punk, who was champion at the time. John Cena, who was obviously the top guy in the company. Kane, who is a legend in the business. You know, eventually down the line, she goes with Dolph Ziggler when he's at the hottest point of his career.
Oh man, I loved that era of Dolph Ziggler.
You know, it's Big E, who we'll talk about in a second, and then it really transitions eventually to just her being the top diva for like a year and a half, which is kind of insane. It's kind of a crazy run once you think about it in, you know, totality.
The way that she kind of parlayed everything into the next big thing.
Yeah.
And she did it well. And we're going to talk about, you know, really the best era of her wrestling starting after the next commercial break. So we're going to take this quick break. When we get back, we're looking at a match versus Kaitlyn. Back from the break, and we're looking at a match against Kaitlyn, Payback 2013. This is for the Divas Championship. Kaitlyn is the Divas Champion. Now, in the interim, in the time since, AJ teamed with Dolph Ziggler, or started teaming with Dolph Ziggler after turning on John Cena at TLC December 2012. And then Ziggler and AJ added Big E Langston up from NXT.
Big chest meat.
Big titty meat. That's Big E. That's my boy. I love him. If you want a good read before the Royal Rumble, go to fullpresswrestling.com and check out my article on why Big E should win the Royal Rumble, because he should.
My Daniel Bryan one is pending, people.
So AJ won the right to challenge for real-life friend Kaitlyn's Diva Championship by winning a Battle Royal in early April. Then came the secret admirer. Lee set up Kaitlyn to believe that she had a secret admirer, and it was revealed to be Big E. But then when Big E came out, looking smooth as all hell, I will say.
With the silk shirt.
With the silk shirt.
Oh.
Big E is... What a stud. Big E's a fucking stud.
He's a gem. Any woman that would be with Big E Langston is a lucky woman.
Big E looked so smooth with Secret Admirer, and he like woos Kaitlyn and like dips her, like he's gonna kiss her, and then just drops her on the ground. And AJ comes out and is so mean. She is so mean to Kaitlyn. No one will ever love you. Like, these
what
are...
a promo, though.
These are things that cut fucking deep.
Like, honestly, I know this is just kind of like a storyline thing, but even I kind of was at the point where I was like,
I felt so bad for Kaitlyn.
I was just like, all right, Kaitlyn, beat this hoe up.
Yeah, whoop her ass. Like, way to, sell the investment, but like, wow, it was so high school, but it was so mean.
I love that high school shit. We were just talking about One Tree Hill prior to the recording of this podcast, which is my number one favorite show of all time. I know everything about that show. And, it's kind of just that admission should just show people I love that high school drama shit.
During the entrances, Kaitlyn makes her entrance, and the aesthetic of Kaitlyn, the Divas Championship, and the Payback logo, it all felt very 2013. Like,
2013.
It was such a time capsule. Like,
you want to hear the most 2013 thing possible, though? The main event is John Cena and Ryback in the 3 Stages of Hell match.
Oh, yeah. Right. What a weird time.
We are just skipping right through that one.
Yeah, we're going to just skirt on past that. Yeah, definitely. Also, we haven't talked about the Divas title. What a shitty-looking title.
So when I think of the Divas title, I do think of AJ Lee. I will unfortunately say. That belt alone, I mean, it's most well-known because of her super long title reign. She really held it for a long time. Didn't get to defend it as much because, the division
didn't
sucked.
Get the opportunities, yeah.
But, it's unfortunately the title that I remember most with her, even though she strikes me as, like, the least diva out there.
Yeah, it's kind of weird that that's the one you associate with the belt.
Yeah, because in real life, AJ is just, like, the nerdiest, not diva person out there. She, like, writes comic books now, for fuck's sake. Like,
it really doesn't gel with the aesthetic of the Divas title. Also, making the top championship prize of the women's division look more like an accessory than a prize really shows you what WWE thought of the women's division at that time. Like, it truly was not seen in the same light.
Yeah, I will say, though, with the belt, it looked, like, fucking perfect on Maurice. Like, it so just worked with Maurice. And Natty, too, and Natty had it. Like, just because Natty has, like, the bodysuit with the pink on it, and it just actually, like, really looked good. So, aesthetically pleasing.
Looking at the match, it starts so hot. Also, Biggie is out with AJ Lee, and he's in his singlet. I assume he had a match.
I think he did. I think him and Dolph had a match together.
I don't know why he would be wearing his singlet. Anyways.
Well, they had their tag team deal, too, him and Dolph.
And Kaitlyn is using the Fury quick. Like, she tosses AJ over the Spanish announce table.
Yeah.
As she should. She should be fucking furious. And she was. And that was a big theme of this match.
Yeah, and as it fucking should be. You got a hot feud. Start hot. Although it slows down super fucking quick. Because AJ gets on top at one point. She hits a basement drop kick, but it was off the apron.
Which was really cool. I like that.
So she just hit her in the face.
Yeah.
And then from there, she's on top. She puts on a couple cravat holds. She gets a couple headlocks on. So many rest spots, right at the beginning.
It was a lot of AJ trying to wear Kaitlyn down because Kaitlyn obviously has the power advantage. Yeah,
and she's got the speed advantage. She's got all the advantages. Kaitlyn was really fun. Like, looking back on the 2013 and stuff, like, there were a lot of Kaitlyn spots that I really like. Like, she had a really good spear.
Oh, we're going to get to that.
She, like, could really muscle people. And honestly, like, if she had just kept to it and just kept going, I feel like, I would fucking kill to have seen her against Charlotte in matches. Her against Rhea Ripley. Like, can you just imagine, like, we saw a really fun, like, I would say Haas woman fight, even though they're both, like, my height, between Rhea Ripley and Raquel Gonzalez. That was a really, really fun match. Can you imagine if we had gotten that style of match between, like, Charlotte and Kaitlyn?
That would have been really cool.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not that she's the best worker in the world, because she's not. She's had her flaws, obviously, but give her a little refinement. Maybe send her down to NXT for a couple while. It would have been really cool. But, yeah, back to the match. AJ gets a really... All right, so there's a great shoulder tackle by Kaitlyn at one point where she rebounds off the opposite rope.
Over AJ.
Yeah, but AJ just puts on the shittiest crucifix pin I've seen in a long time.
And then Kaitlyn rolls through it. This is the one that she rolls through, right?
Yeah, she rolls through it. She gets AJ up on her shoulders, and then she tosses her forward into the knees, like to her abs. Yeah, gutbuster.
She whips AJ's belt off of her, which elicits, like, it's just a belt. And elicits
it's just a belt. Her pants didn't move in any way, shape, or form.
Some people in the crowd were ahead of themselves. Rips the belt off AJ, and AJ runs to the apron while the ref is distracted because I believe because she is pulling the apron back.
AJ fucked around with the apron.
AJ pulled the apron, and she's going to pull back in the ring. As the ref goes to fix the apron, AJ hits her with the belt that she just had taken off of her, and then pretends to be down too, Eddie Guerrero style. You love to see it.
But she's down a little too long.
Yeah, she's down for a long time.
Because, she gets the pin on, and it's a near fall.
Lee then snaps and screams, again tying into her presentation that we mentioned before. There's a top rope crossbody.
And
Kaitlyn catches her because, of course she does. AJ's tiny.
Yeah, AJ's not big woman.
Philly did nothing for Kaitlyn to catch her.
She's all of like 5'2"
thing in the world. Yeah. And Kaitlyn goes to like swing her around, and AJ then catches her in the Black Widow instead, which looked really
I love
good.
those counters, though. She's so good at tilt-a-whirl countering into the Black Widow.
Yeah. Kaitlyn powers out into a backbreaker, and then this is where we see the massive spear.
No, it's not a backbreaker. It was a sidewalk slam.
Okay. Oh, man. Oh, sorry. Move, please.
We don't disrespect sidewalk slams. I fucking love sidewalk slams.
We get a massive spear. People should take notes. AJ, this match, I will say, excellent selling throughout. She can ragdoll. She clearly learned some things from Dolph on the road.
Oh my god. Dude, she sold that just like Dolph Ziggler.
But she also does a good job of selling with her facial reactions. And not the classic WWE, you get a 2 count and you look incredulous like no one's ever kicked out of a move before. But just the facial expressions of being in agony. You can see that she's thinking of what to do. You can see she never loses herself. She's always in the match. She's always clearly in character in the match, and I like that a lot.
And really good at just acting like she's dead. She's so good at it.
Too.
She's so good at it. But yeah, it's fucking hilarious. So she hits the spear, which I believe is Kaitlyn's finisher.
I think so. Should be.
There was a spot where she transitioned to a different finisher. I don't know if that had happened yet, but she hits the spear, and then she just kind of teases AJ. She blows a kiss in her face. She lifts her up, and then she's just slams her back down and goes for a pin. She picks up her head, and then she slams her head back down. She doesn't actually pick up AJ. She goes for the pin, and AJ kicks out because she fucking waited 30 seconds before actually pinning the woman. So.
Took her a long time, and commentary rightfully is hey, you could have won if you just didn't do that.
This woman was dead 35 seconds ago.
So she kicks out. AJ then dodges another Kaitlyn spear, and she goes crashing and goes head first into the turnbuckle.
Yes.
Then we get the Black Widow locked in once more, and she taps out. I do love the fact that the mind games that AJ was playing clearly played a role in Kaitlyn's demise.
Yeah, she was
AJ
just too
got
hot
under her skin.
She was flying too high, baby. The sun melted her.
And so AJ becomes Divas Champion. This is her first reign, and it is her longest reign, and is the second longest reign in history. We'll get to that.
What is it? 289?
It is. I have written down here 295.
295.
Yeah, but now we're looking at the AJ Lee promo, which is affectionately called the #Pipe Bombshell.
I love this so much, but they took out my favorite part of it.
What was your favorite part? What did they take out?
We will get to it at the end.
Okay. I didn't realize there was a part that was missing.
The most famous line of it.
AJ was the perfect anti-diva for the time. Absolutely. Yeah. She's still Divas Champion, and she comes in to cut a promo. All of the Total Divas women are out there at the ring. So Eva Marie is out there with the Bellas. Natalia's with the Funkadactyls in the ring, and JoJo is the ring announcer. So all the Total Divas women from that season are there.
My favorite thing was, so she starts off, and she's talking about Total Divas, and she's like, oh my god, she's fake fangirling. And she gives us the line, Bellas were dealing with their obvious daddy issues. The Funkadactyls broke up and then got back together again. Natalia's husband isn't much of a man.
You be nice to Tyson, kid.
Oh, and the other two were also there.
Yeah, that was mean. That's so mean. They're doing things.
They were just there. It's just terrible. Like, my least favorite part of all of this was just Nikki and Brie just yelling in the background.
Say it to my face.
Say it to our face.
Oh,
they continuously just say it to our face. It's like, all right, first off, proper grammar, please. Second off, shut the fuck up.
Yeah, it was pretty annoying because the ringside mics were picking it up really hard.
Yeah.
AJ's fake scream after shilling how good the show is, she's like, oh my god, is very funny.
It's so good. She's really good at mocking. She's been spending too much time with Punk.
AJ is a very funny person.
From really
what you can see in interviews and what you can see in kind of her character work, she's very funny.
She's hilarious. And you could tell here, she's been getting some pointers from Punk because this is a very CM Punk-esque type of promo.
AJ says, you know what I see when I look in that ring? A bunch of cheap, interchangeable, useless women. Like, this is not women building up women. This is AJ calling out an entire division. Because this was a majority of the division at this time. Like, this is really the foundation of the division. And
she calls them out all basically bunched up together when she goes, I didn't get here because I was cute or came from a famous wrestling family or because I sucked up to the right people.
Oh, I wonder what she means by that.
And, she just basically buries everyone. She just goes, you're not on my level. You can step up and you'll get put down. Like, she basically is just saying, hey, bitches, I'm fucking the best here. Yeah. There's your reality check. Reality TV.
You will never be able to lace up my Chuck Taylors.
Yeah.
Which sounds like something that like some of the people I knew in middle school would have said, but the way that she delivers it actually lands. The arrogance, the absolute arrogance that AJ is displaying here, but it's all based in truth and reality.
Now that I actually try to remember the line, I don't know if it's actually a part of this. It's when she goes, someone needs to tell the Bellas that talent isn't sexually transmitted.
No, that's from another promo.
Yeah, because she was in the ring, I believe, when she said that.
But the way that she ends up...
Another great line, though.
And that is reality. Great line. Great line by AJ. I love the whole idea of AJ versus the division, but I always find like it's a really hard line to walk whenever you kind of position one person against a large group like that, because it's hard for that person to continuously dominate. Like, they made it work, obviously, and we'll talk about how AJ does end up losing the title, but it was kind of weird that, she just kind of comes out, just demos the division, and is like, none of you can hang with me, because then how do you book AJ to have competitive matches after that?
It does, however, like, I think you could do it. You put her in program with Natalya, then just have her, have them go out there, give them fucking time.
Again, Natty's reliable. You can just
give them time. Why didn't she have, a 10, 15-minute match with Natalya at some pay-per-view? Didn't have to be an A-list pay-per-view. It could have been some D-list pay-per-view for all I care. Just give her time.
Fatal 4-way.
Have a competitive match. Let AJ show out. Let Natty show out.
That's a conversation I don't think we've had before. What do you think about all the gimmick name WWE pay-per-views?
Oh, for fuck's sake! That's a topic for.
I just want to get you mad. I just want to get you pissed off.
I'm not diluting the podcast with that talk. That's gonna last about 50 minutes.
You don't want to talk about how Hell in a Cells always have to happen in October because that's when they apparently get the cell out of storage.
So that promo happens, and Evan, take us to commercial, please.
I will take us to commercial. When we get back, we're looking at 2 more AJ Lee matches. Back from the break, and now we're looking not at the match that ends AJ Lee's legendary Divas Championship reign.
Yeah, that's being reserved for a different podcast.
But the feud that comes out of it. So, Paige debuted, the other anti-diva that we kind of talked about earlier. Paige debuted the night after WrestleMania 30 on Raw and beat AJ Lee for the title and ended her reign at 295 days, the longest at the time.
Fantastic debut.
So AJ would go away for a little and come back on June 30th and would actually beat Paige for the title again on Raw in her first night back.
In a roll-up.
In a roll-up.
Because
so
LOL, Raw.
Yeah, that is it's the Raw way. And I guess Paige and AJ had been kind of like quasi friends for a little, where
it was weird
as a face, and Paige was still a face, and they hadn't really decided who was going to be the heel. But then I guess Paige turns heel on AJ. I think Paige is the heel here.
They kind of just flip-flop the whole way through, if I'm being completely
it's like
honest.
Pick your poison, who you actually want to cheer for and against.
Yeah, I don't think either of them were actually the heel. I also don't think either of them were actually the face. It was weird. They were frenemies. It's honestly just such a weird...
a lot on commentary, actually, is that they were frenemies.
Yeah, it's genuinely such a weird storyline because, I mean, it kind of just abruptly ends and then the Bellas come in and then it's just terrible. But anyways...
Sadness, pain...
Yeah, we start off with Paige coming down. She's skipping down to the ring. It's just great. I love this. Also, this is SummerSlam 2014. John Cena gets murdered.
I remember the murder of John Cena because this is, I was fully back in at this point.
I wasn't. I didn't come back in until Survivor Series.
The first pay-per-view that I had watched was the Royal Rumble before WrestleMania 30. So this is right when I had gone back. And, yeah, I know. And we don't want to talk about that. The thing that I remember was I'm like, oh, man, John Cena and Brock Lesnar, that's going to be crazy. And then he, got...
It was crazy.
Just murdered. It was the birth of Suplex City, bitch.
It was definitely crazy, I'll tell you that.
I don't understand people who would buy city-specific Suplex City shirts, because I also know that my city
I'd pull it out, but it's at the bottom of the pile over there.
You have one?
I have a Boston one.
No. Why?
I went to the SmackDown before WrestleMania 32, I believe. The one where he fought Dean Ambrose.
Yeah, it's 32.
Yeah, 32. And I was in Boston, and I saw the shirt, and I was like, I'm just going to buy it.
Man, buy a different shirt.
No, fuck you. It's a great shirt. And it's Suplex City, Boston, Massachusetts, motherfucker. There's no North Bay one.
My city will never make it on a Suplex City shirt, so I'm just bitter. That's all.
You're bitter?
Anyways.
Be better. How about that?
Be better. So, to start the match, weird start, I would say, because early on, AJ bites Paige.
Yeah, Paige sticks out her hand like this is fucking Ring of Honor. Like we have to adhere to the Code of Honor, and then AJ just bites it.
What would be in a WWE Code of Honor? Nothing.
No, it's just a handshake,
a
or it's like UFC where you just fucking touch gloves or something. I don't know. Unless you're Stone Cold Steve Austin, in which your Code of Honor is, hey, here's a fucking middle finger.
Flip off your opponent. Yeah.
I don't know.
So AJ bites Paige's hand to start, which again makes me think like, okay, AJ's the heel, but Paige had heelish tendencies when she was skipping out here. It was very weird.
This is also like, you got to think about it. That whole sequence is just so anti-2020, 2021 because like, who the fuck shakes hands now? There's a fucking pandemic, people.
That's true.
And also, we're biting hands? Transmission of germs?
I do get when I'm watching like TV shows that were clearly like that don't involve the pandemic, and I'm like, you people are way too close together.
Dude, I watched Live Aid, just the Queen performance, because
it's a good
Queen
choice.
is my favorite band of all time, and I just watch Live Aid like every other couple months because fuck you. And I just saw all the people. There was obviously, it's Wembley. There's over 100,000 people there, and I was just like fucking baffled. Like, what the hell are you people doing all bunched up like that?
Yeah, man. Even like, I'm in the process of planning my wedding, and we are not having that many people at the wedding. But I'm looking at it and I'm like, wow, we're gonna have this many people. Like this room. What do you mean this room can hold that many people? There's not enough space. We're gonna have to be able to distance out. And I'm like, wait, my wedding is not for a while now. Yeah. So I'm hopeful that we are gonna be in a better situation as a society.
Well, see if I can find a date to the wedding. I don't have to go stag.
Hey, people who are listening, if you're an eligible lady, you could be Javier's date to the pod and meet both of us. What a cool experience that'll be for you coming to Canada.
Yeah, I'll start up a bidding war. You got to bid on it.
We just talk about the match.
Yeah. So right, hand biting. AJ slams Paige face first into the announce table, and then Paige, she returns the favor by like dropping AJ face first into the barricade.
Yeah, Paige was on the outside and AJ was on the apron, and Paige managed to put her in an electric chair position and then just face first onto the barricade, which I can't say I've ever seen an electric chair drop kind of like that. I thought it was great.
It was fun. I mean, it's an innovative spot that you could do because AJ is fucking tiny.
That's true. That's probably one thing that people appreciate about working with AJ is that like you can pull off any spot. Any strength spot that you wanted to run as a diva, you can do with AJ.
Yeah, she's so small. Like, so small. And yeah, there's a really cool spot here where so AJ's like in the ring, like kind of on the middle rope, and Paige is on the outside, kind of hanging on to the corner as well. And we get the cool little Mufasa scar spot, basically, where she like hits Paige's left hand, and Paige is just dangling. She's like, "No, please, no!" And then instead of just removing the other hand, she just stomps her ass out, and Paige falls.
Get out. Yeah, there are some. This match runs just a shade under 5 minutes, and there's a lot of weird spots in it.
They put a lot of work. It honestly worked so well because it's weird in a way that suits the story because it's such a weird story. They're both two weird women. They aren't divas. They want to tell a story.
Paige crawls on AJ at one point and pulls out a lock of hair. Whose hair is it? Because I couldn't tell.
It's Paige's.
Okay.
It's Paige's hair.
Okay. I was like, did you just take hair off of AJ's head?
Yeah.
That's weird.
Oh, also, after Paige fell to her death, before getting run over by the Stampede, AJ hits a flying crossbody from the top to her, a la Ricky the Dragon Steamboat style, baby.
There's a lot of just interesting spots in this match.
Yeah, there's a fun little spot that really calls back to the earlier in their storyline. Paige goes for the page turner. AJ counters it, fucking contorts the shit out of her body in the process, twirls all over Paige, and it's just like Black Widow.
I don't love the page turner.
It was a terrible finish, which I'm glad that she changed it. We will get to that.
Yeah, I'm glad that she did. Before that was when AJ connected with a Shining Wizard, and it's the only time I've seen her hit one in these matches, and it was good. She should hit it more.
Good. It was the worst looking Shining Wizard I've seen.
I thought it was fine.
She straight up just comes off the rope, and it's just like, fuck, I have to hit this woman, and just like bends her leg.
I thought it looked like it actually hit her. And
I feel like they had to change this kind of the camera angle on it just to make it look fine. It looked like shit.
I will say, one thing I noticed is, I don't know when Kevin Dunn decided that he wanted to just do camera cuts constantly, but doing this podcast in general, I think that the break is like 2006, 2007, 2008.
I think 2008 is really when I started noticing.
You see it starting to change there, and it gets worse. It just gets worse the later it is.
It wasn't until like the Mark Henry episode, I think, that I really started to notice it, because we started getting later on into it. But yeah, that's cool. Eventually, though, for all the shit that we talked about Paige and the page turner, she pulls out the new finisher.
The Rampage.
Which I thought was just a great name.
It's
such a great name. Because for what it is, it's just a DDT. She contorts the shit out of AJ when she puts on she tries to put on a Black Widow.
Yeah.
And then she just spikes her straight down on her goddamn head. Yeah, it's ram. She literally rams her head into the ground. And Rampage is a word. And her name is Paige. It's great.
Nothing I appreciate more than explaining the joke. I think
because as we talked about earlier, there may be 5-year-olds that listen to this for some reason.
I hope not. So Paige picks up the W on her 22nd birthday and becomes a 2-time Divas champion. She's so good at such a young age here.
She, at this time, is a year younger than I currently am.
Yeah, and a lot younger than I currently am, so that hurts.
Also, Paige, I am free next Wednesday. That is Wednesday when I am free.
Paige's neck injury is such a shame, because she really had so much more left to do, I think, in terms of wrestling.
God. Can you imagine if she had just gone full heel during Becky's rise to the top, when Becky was like top, just a little program that they could have had together instead of me getting Lacey Evans.
Give me a Paige heel stable with like Nikki Cross in it.
And fucking Toni Storm.
Yeah, sold. I love that. I love all of that. But instead, that unfortunate injury. And I still don't quite understand, because it sounds like she hasn't been cleared by WWE doctors, but is kind of cleared by other. I don't get the extent of the injury.
Honestly, like, I love Paige. I think she's great. I think she's kind of at the point where I know she doesn't really want to do anything else. I don't know what she's really qualified for in the world because I don't know the woman. But, like, I think for health, like, it happens so early on for you. You just kind of take the back seat and
Though I will say
try to transition to something else.
I will say that the Edge return does give me hope.
Yeah.
And that might be false hope, but it does give me hope.
Yeah, I will say, though, I feel like it's kind of a extreme circumstance with Edge, though. He had so much time in between to just heal, and, you know, the way he was working on his body and everything, you know, it kind of, I mean, if we go on the same timeline with Paige, she retired at what, like 26?
Yeah, something like that.
And so, like, she'll be 36 when she comes back. Like, is it really worth it at that point for the run? I don't know. Who knows what wrestling's going to look like at that point in time? Because, fuck, if you had told me 10 years ago during the summer of Punk that wrestling was going to look the way that it does now, I would have been like, sure.
Sure.
So who knows?
All elite wrestling, whatever that means.
Women being in prominent positions. Please.
John Cena's still going to be dominating the company. Oh, cool. Goldberg. Sorry. It makes me sad. Let's look at the final match, and that is AJ Lee teaming with Paige against the Bella Twins at WrestleMania 31. So AJ lost the title to Nikki Bella at Survivor Series after winning it back from Paige Night of Champions. And then she took time off to heal a neck injury. In the interim is when there was the beginning of hashtag Give Divas a Chance. AJ tweeted out in February 2015 that women's wrestlers were not getting the same opportunities, we're not getting the same wages, we're not getting the same...
Straight at Stephanie McMahon, by the way.
And she tweeted at Stephanie, and I think at Vince, too, which, like, when everything I know about Vince, he probably isn't checking his own Twitter, but also...
He doesn't know what it is.
He doesn't know what a Twitter is, but also, like, bold to go right to the top. I like that. And that really did start a conversation about the fact that women weren't being given the opportunities. It did lead to WWE reevaluating, I think, their women's division and the role in the product, because it led to call-ups of Charlotte and Becky and Sasha, the kind of
which didn't happen
warfare,
until July.
Which didn't happen until July. That there were still some weeks where they would get like a 10-minute match in a couple of the segments, or 2 women's matches on the show instead of just one. But then they'd go back and have like a 2-minute match one week, and that was the only thing on the show. It very much reminds me maybe not exactly the same way, but in the way that for the first year, AEW has struggled to find consistent roles and time for their women's division.
Although now we're having a title eliminator tournament,
which sounds excellent, and
with Emi Sakura.
I think AEW is doing a good job of highlighting different stories, but they really need to dig into the characters of the women on their roster. Yeah. WWE at this time was just didn't know how to use women yet. They were like, "What do you mean they're not just like a bathroom break?" Which is a shitty opinion to have. But they really didn't know, like, well, what do we do? And it took, I think, some prominent voices. Obviously, we don't know who, but we hear stories of people like Stephanie and like Triple H and Fit Finlay is apparently one of the big ones.
Yeah,
he was like one of the main agents for them. Just give them time. They just kept saying, like, give them time. Let them go out and do 10 minutes. Let them go out and
obviously
do 12
Triple
minutes.
H was, I mean, you could see that he was a big proponent of it, because you see what was going on literally at this time in NXT. The top people in NXT, like, obviously the whole Sami Zayn, Neville storyline was great, but really I thought the main attraction of NXT at the time was the women. It was the Charlottes, the Sasha Banks, the Becky, the Baileys, that whole storyline. Fuck, even Summer Rae was good in NXT. Like,
that's true.
It's so interesting to think of just the way that they really were at the two parallels, because you had such talented women down in NXT and a lot of potential in the main roster, because you still had AJ Lee, you still had Paige. Nikki Bella was really actually starting to become good at wrestling at this point, and she's about to embark on her run that we talk about here. She's like in the thick of it. Yeah. It's just really disappointing that they were presented in 2 different lights, because it's all a matter of how you present things. I feel like, if someone isn't as talented, I don't think the Bella Twins are as talented as the women down in NXT in the ring, but it's all a matter of presentation. If you're presenting them as just the reality TV people that are going to go out there for 3 minutes to somewhat pop the women into the crowd, like, oh, I saw them on E Network and then like just treat them as little trophies, then yeah, they're gonna be thought of as shit. But if they're going out there and you give the Bella Twins like an opponent like Paige and AJ Lee and actual good wrestlers and let them have a 10-minute match, just fuck it. If they fuck up, they fuck up. But like, it's Raw, no one gives a shit.
We forget what happens on Raw next week. You have to remind us 74 times with recaps. So like, we'll get over it. But some things I think people forget is that wrestling is, they decide out everything that's going to happen early on. If you want to
unless you're Vince,
if you want to do a 20-minute women's match, you can. You have the talent. You have the women who can do it. If you want to give them 4 different segments on the show, 2 matches, 2 promos, you can. You can write that all in. Like, there was nothing stopping them except for their preconceived notions of what the women's wrestlers were supposed to be, which is shit. Yeah. And I'm really glad that it's not fixed, but it's better. It's obviously better, and it can continue to get better.
And not to give AEW a pass, because it's kind of been inexcusable what they've done with their women's division, but they haven't had a lot of their talent because the Joshi wrestlers obviously haven't been able to come over from Japan.
Yeah.
And they've at least acknowledged that it is a flaw of theirs, and they're taking accountability for it. I don't see it becoming better within the last couple weeks and months, but at least, hopefully this title eliminator will be a change that they can have there and maybe start moving forward, maybe give Shida a couple of opponents. But it's the same issue that WWE has, where we can't just present the women who are in the title picture as like the only women, There need to be secondary feuds. There need to be feuds that are not about friendships. There was a really fun storyline. Remember the Big Swole Britt Baker storyline?
Yeah.
That was fun.
That was good.
And it lasted a while before their big match. Like, give me more of that. Just give us storylines that have nothing to do with the title, just to display the women. Just show me them.
Whose storylines I like right now? Billie Kay. I like that Billie Kay is on my TV screen every Friday, trying to find a spot on the roster, trying to like give people a resume. She's trying out to be the assistant to Adam Pearce. Now she's with the Riot Squad. Like, she's showcasing. We all knew Billie Kay is very funny, right? So just give them the opportunity to do something. I knew that Give Divas a Chance was going to bring up strong feelings for both of us, because both of us are big like, why the hell are you not using the talented?
Big proponent of the women.
Yeah, they're good at the freaking wrestling. Anyways,
I mean, just think about it now. The parallels between Raw and SmackDown, it's insane.
Yeah. So AJ did come back from being out for a while because she was healing.
Surprise return.
On March 2nd, and she saved Paige from an attack from the Bellas, which caused this match to be booked.
I was watching that live.
Is the one out in the San Francisco Bay Area, and the one that's pretty much almost entirely in the light because of the start time. Like, it started at 3 in the afternoon.
I mean, to be fair, it's kind of like, what are they going to do? Postpone it to like 5 and then have WrestleMania finish at 2 in the morning? Like,
I will
Eastern
say
time?
It was weird as hell to see an Undertaker Bray Wyatt match in the daytime.
Yeah, it was weird,
unsettling.
But at the same time, like, you can't push it any further back because like even the main event was half of it was in the light, kind of. So like,
is in the twilight. Yeah. Just a weird aura. It's a good WrestleMania. I don't mind it.
It's fucking excellent. I love 31. It was my first WrestleMania back as a full-time fan, and I loved everything about it. It really was great. But this match was weird to me because I came back and I was really, when I came back as a fan, I was really looking forward to seeing what the women could do, because the women were a big part of my fandom early on. I mean, obviously it was presented in a weird way. I was a horny little kid, and I really liked Trish Stratus for obvious reasons.
I love that you still can't pronounce her name.
Shut the fuck up. But yeah, I really liked, seeing those matches still, of Michelle McCool. I just liked seeing them. They were very attractive, yes, but at the same time, it was also something different.
Yeah.
And different is good. So I came back and hoping, that the women would have longer and better matches, and I didn't really get that. So that was disappointing. It also didn't help that I came back as a wrestling fan literally the same show that AJ was leaving, because it wasn't until Survivor Series 2014 that I started coming back into the fold. It was probably like 2 weeks before the actual pay-per-view itself, and I was really intrigued by AJ. So for her to just fucking disappeared 2 weeks after I came back to wrestling. Kind of sucked.
Yeah.
And I got stuck with the Bella Twins, which is fine. I had a lot of disdain for them early on, but they grew on me, I guess. And this match was weird.
I will say that in this match, the person who impressed me the most in terms of like my expectation versus where they performed is Nikki.
Yeah.
In this match, Nikki has a lot of really good spots, including an early Alabama Slam. I know she hits it consistently, but that Alabama Slam is... I think you don't think of Nikki as a power wrestler. And the Alabama
but she
Slam
is though, is the weird thing.
Yeah, you don't think of her that way, because I don't know if it's that she's not, as like muscular as some of the other women's wrestlers you would associate as like a powerhouse, but she can hit a lot of strong moves. The rack attack takes some strength.
Yeah, I mean, you think about her offense, it's not holds, it's not headlocks and stuff like that. She's a striker, she slams people. It's kind of a weird combo of strength and brawling, but you don't really think about her that way because of the way that she was presented, which was the reality star person who you just expect to go out there and do kind of shit moves. But they were never shit, they were crisp usually.
Let's talk about the presentation of AJ in this match, because she got the short end of the stick, especially early on.
Okay, so, like, if you think about it, it's kind of a combination of a lot of things. The three things that obviously stick out to my mind is, number one, this is her last match. So
no,
you don't know.
Not.
It is not?
It is her second last match.
What was her last match?
There was a 6-woman tag the next night on Raw. That was AJ's last match.
Okay, well, I mean, I doubt she really does as much in that match either. But, like, you think about the presentation, which, like, yeah, it's her last big match. Sorry, it's not her last match. But, we are a year removed from her husband going fucking scorched earth on the company.
Correct.
Which they are married at this point. If you know anything about the whole saga, they are 7-8 months removed from getting his release papers on their wedding
day.
I assume there are some sour grapes between her and the company. Also, she just called them out like 2 months ago.
I will have sour grapes if I get fired on my wedding day.
Yeah, and
Javier's gonna send me walking papers from this podcast on my wedding day.
Like, final note, that is actually really important when you got to think about it. She just came back from a neck injury.
Yeah, it's
like she was just on the table. Like, how much could she actually do? Is also like something that really needs to be questioned here.
So early on, she is out of the match for a long time. Early on, she is knocked off the apron by Nikki.
And is
she's
dead.
Down, and she's down for a long time. She's about to start getting back up. But Bree's in the match now, and she hits Bree Mode. And she knees AJ in the head when she's up on the apron. Like, AJ was just crawling back onto the apron, and she gets a knee in the head, so she's down once more. AJ gets back up a third time and gets drop-kicked off by Nikki. Like, AJ's out for a real long time. And Nikki and Bree are both dominating Paige. Big spine buster by Nikki. The rack attack, like I mentioned.
Yeah, and Paige just kicks out like normal. What the fuck is this? Fucking ROH?
Paige kicks out of the rack attack, which is the finisher of the Divas Champion at that point. That's
it's
wild.
Not like there was a delay or anything. She went straight for the pin. Paige kicks out.
Yeah. Paige then starts to get a little bit of shine and a little bit of fire. She elbows Bree in the corner, tosses Nikki to the outside, hits a really nice senton off the apron. I like that. I don't see Paige do things like that often.
No, she's not really a high spot kind of competitor. She was also one of those that was really about the slamming. She talked a lot of shit during her match. She really felt like a lot of what she was like female Kevin Owens, I would say.
That's a good
as far as the way she conducted herself in the ring. She just talked a lot of shit and she just did moves.
Paige does get the hot tag to AJ. AJ comes in with forearms and a Thez press, and then a really interesting tornado DDT that was actually a tornado guillotine. Because she tornadoes, I don't remember if it was Brie or Nikki.
Nikki.
It was Nikki. And instead of landing and DDTing her, AJ goes and lands on the apron, which guillotines Nikki on the top rope.
Yeah.
That was cool. I've never seen that before.
And then she hits a crossbody. Nikki rolled through it. But as she has, she picks up AJ, puts her on her shoulders. And as that's happening, Paige comes in and fucking super kicks her head off.
Yes. Paige decides to clean kick her, soccer kick into next week.
It was a near fall. AJ gets put in kind of an electric chair position. It's not like your regular, she's sitting on your shoulder. She kind of has her knees on Nikki's shoulders, but it's in the electric chair kind of position, which she just contorts around somehow and turns into a tornado DDT. I don't know how.
It didn't connect cleanly, but it was really cool for what she did.
Yeah, it was good enough.
It's fine.
That's one of those moves where, like, unless you're fucking Rey Fenix and Sami Zayn, and those are the only two probably that could combine to do that move really clean, you're probably not going to get it as crisp.
AJ hits the Black Widow, or locks in the Black Widow. Brie breaks it up with a kick, and then Paige
immediately
again Paige with a massive kick. Paige is just kicking people this match.
And then she fucking just carelessly throws that woman into the steps.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, on the outside, Paige absolutely launches Brie into the steel steps.
Like, there was no working that. She went flying into those shit.
It was bad. And then that allows AJ to lock in the Black Widow on Nikki for the W. So in the last big match of AJ's career, she is a winner alongside Paige.
Still waiting for that Divas title shot.
That's true. Somewhere down
never
the
got a
line.
rematch and never was able to, follow up on that tap.
Now, after retiring, Nikki Bella, who is still a Divas champion at this time, would go on to break AJ's longest reigning Divas championship reign by a whole 6 days.
Because we must block
I'm sure it had
AJ.
nothing to do with the friction between WWE and AJ's real-life husband, CM Punk. I'm sure that
Who,
had nothing to do with
may or may not have had a lawsuit going at the time.
Mm-hmm. WWE, not subtle, not petty.
Not
Just
at
kidding.
all.
They're very fucking petty.
She lost the title to Charlotte Flair, and then we get the women's era started. Because a couple
that
months
was
after
nice.
that, WrestleMania 32, we obviously get that really fun triple threat, and it's kind of just been an uphill climb ever since.
And that was one of the only good matches in WrestleMania 32.
It was the best match, in my opinion, of WrestleMania 32.
Agreed. Hey, we once rebooked WrestleMania 32. You should go back and listen to that.
Yeah, it was great, and mine won.
There's an old plug for you. Oh, now that we've reviewed the whole career of AJ Lee, Javier, what are your thoughts on the impact of AJ on the wrestling world?
Honestly, I think when I first think about AJ Lee, I don't even think about her as a wrestler. I think about, what she's done as a mental health advocate.
True.
She's been so prominent in that role, in that position. She's taken a lot of her time to really talk about her struggles and the struggles of people like her, and really tried to put mental health in the forefront. And her book, Crazy is My Superpower. I fucking love that book. I have the audio version of it. I've listened to it 3 or 4 times at this point. It's really insightful, not only about her life, but just her struggles mentally and how it's affected her, and how it, the stigma around it is really something that should change. And it's just really cool because, I see her and I think about, her and her relationship with CM Punk, and like, dude, they're fucking perfect for each other. Like, it's kind of crazy. And, it's really cool to see what she's done with her career post-wrestling. Obviously, I mentioned the comic book stuff earlier, but she's really shifted her life into writing because she's just done with wrestling at this point. It's really obvious that kind of like her passion for it was kind of sucked out in the same way that Punk's was.
Yeah,
which sucks.
And I think it had something to do also with what Punk was going through, the being fired, the lawsuit, all that. I think had something to do with it. I think the thing for me when it comes to AJ Lee is the ability to translate your real life character to your character on screen is something that I don't think WWE really let women's wrestlers do often. Is like their quirks and their personality is something that was kind of like paved over. The exception to the rule, in my opinion, is Lita, which we already compared to AJ to a little bit earlier.
Lita was always fucking crazy, people.
Lita was just doing Lita stuff, right? But AJ showed that like you can have these dimensions to a character and still play them face or heel. Like, they're not going to really put you in a box. And you look at the women who are really successful now, I think a lot of them are, again, turning their own personalities up to 11. I think Sasha's like that. I think Becky's like the man. Like, I think Lacey Evans is her whole life story is what she is now, right?
Yeah, I just want to say this, and I do not mean any insult when I say this. Sasha Banks just is that bitch.
Yeah, she is the coolest motherfucker on the planet.
Yeah, she's fucking awesome.
But
Same thing with Becky.
AJ was the kind of the innovator. Like, she was the first one to be like, she's bringing these nerd culture things. She was unapologetically herself, even if she then had to play a character with it. Like, there were still elements of truth in who she was. And you see that in, like, she didn't want to be the total diva. That's not who she is. And that's why I think that, pipe bombshell promo just lands so well is because it feels very authentic.
Yeah, and it sucks that her career had to end a year before we really got the whole
women's division became
expansion.
A thing for
yeah,
real?
It was a women's division. We got all this fresh talent in. Like, again, can you just imagine her having a match with Becky, Sasha, Charlotte? We saw how great a chemistry Charlotte and Sasha have. Can you imagine the same kind of vein of match between Charlotte and AJ? Paige, he could have done a little more with those two. Asuka.
I think those two could have been, lifelong rivals. They could have had a great, just back and forth.
They could have been Dean Ambrose and Seth Rollins.
We're gonna do this forever, yeah.
And eventually, our daughters will be doing it together.
That's true. So that's gonna wrap up this week's podcast. Before we go and plug the socials, I'm gonna plug a new project. I got new things on the go.
Oh yeah!
How exciting! I am starting a new podcast with my best friend Mallory, and it is a pop culture podcast. We're going to be looking at pop culture from the week that was 10 years ago, 20 years ago, and then predicting what's going to happen 10 years in the future. It's called the Pop Capsule Podcast because it's like a time capsule for pop culture. Guys, I'm very punny. But
he really is.
Release date for that is going to be sometime in February. Check out my Twitter for more details. My Twitter is @It'sEvanGomes, ITSEVANGOMES. Also, follow the podcast on Twitter @Crossbody of Work. And Javier, where can people find you on Twitter?
I am @JMelloSports. Catch me begging Evan on a nearly weekly basis to let me on that podcast to talk about One Tree Hill. And also, when he's talking about 20 years before that, I was not alive, so I don't want to be on that episode. But hey, I'll probably learn more. But One Tree Hill, I'm your expert, everybody. I don't tweet about it on the Twitter account. I probably won't now, just because.
You gotta get a One Tree Hill burner account.
Who says I don't already have one?
Next week, it is our last solo episode before we dive into another three-parter. And next week, we're looking at the early career of Lex Luger. Now, I think people associate Lex Luger with the Lex Express and kind of not being Hogan, which, not being Hogan normally, great thing. But not being Hogan in the way of wanting to be the top star for WWF and then really falling off in terms of his production in WCW. All of our matches, our last match recovering from Lex Luger is the Yokozuna match. Everything is his early stuff when he was apparently like the next big thing and was really nailing his gimmick. So I'm excited because I don't know anything about old Lex Luger. I only saw like WCW, not like Nitro debut and beyond Luger, really.
Yeah, Mall of America debut and all that jazz.
That first episode of Nitro is actually pretty decent.
I've never seen it. I don't WCW, but if you
Hulk
convince
Hogan
me hard
is
enough.
shilling Pasta Mania, and there's a really good Jushin Liger Brian Pillman match.
Oh, sign me up.
Yep, it's pretty decent. But next week we're going to be looking at Lex Luger, and I'm excited to watch his old stuff.
Yeah, I'm excited for that one as well. I guess now that you mention it in that capacity, I saw Lex Luger on the thing, and I was like, oh fuck.
Sometimes you got to do what you got to do, and I know there's people who probably grew up watching Lex Luger who listen to the podcast, and we hope to relive the glory days for you.
Yeah, I guess I'll try
apart.
not to critique him too hard, just for the people.
We absolutely will, but that's just part of our charm.
This is true. I'm sorry. I don't mean to disparage your childhood heroes. I just hate them.
Unless your childhood hero is Hulk Hogan. Javier, any last words for the people?
Black Lives Matter and keep fighting. Good fight, everybody.
See you next week.